Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning if you're on the West Coast. I am really happy to be with you guys today and happy August 14, everybody. And I am here with Brady Roberts. And Brady has a very interesting story. He sold his company about a year ago. And I have a long history with Brady, going back multiple companies in the past.
Yeah.
And you guys are going to get a rare treat because we're going to let you in on how the meandering, crazy journey of Brady happened and how he ended up building a company that ended up being very valuable, as well as COVID. There's a whole COVID story in
Yes,
here
there is.
for us to have. And so we're just going to dig right in. And hello, everybody who's joined us today. It's great to see all of you. And I'm glad usually the world is not quite back from summer vacation yet in the middle of August. Maybe some people are starting to, but I want to congratulate all of you who joined us today because, like I said, it really is going to be a special treat. And Josh Long is here to help us along. And Brady, I would like you to just go back to the beginning of you and me. You were coming to meetings at this place called the Entourage.
Oh
Um,
yeah, like this
What was the
cool
meet
looking.
cute? Tell us the meet cute. What was it like?
Yes, I think if I remember it correctly, like it's like this big, huge, it's like a pyramid shaped restaurant or something. I don't even remember, but it was a cool facility.
it was where we
And
had our roundtable meetings a long time ago. Yeah.
yes, so I remember like taking the leap. It was a ridiculously large sum of money to pay to go to some mastermind thing. And so showing up to this place, like I can still remember the nerves. Like, what am I walking into? What's this going to be like? I didn't know a single person. And sat down around the table, and there's two or three of those people that were around the table that I still talk to today. And we're talking 15 years ago, pretty
Mhm.
close to 15 years ago, right?
Yep. That's right.
So that was the journey. And I would even venture to say, like a couple of our roundtable sessions in, I realized that this whole concept, this idea of going somewhere, being around people I don't know who are going to ask questions that have never been asked of me, was something that I could absolutely probably never replace. I couldn't do this on my own, and I probably couldn't do it. I live in Boise, Idaho. The likelihood that I could pull something like this off in Boise, Idaho was like next to zero.
Mm.
Because what I found after a couple of those first sessions was like, oh, geez, first of all, I figured out the business that I was in was not going to go very far. At the time, that first business, we were in the golf business. We had a rewards program, and it just wasn't it was super scalable, but the market for it wasn't super large.
I remember something about Craigslist. Weren't you advertising on?
Oh yeah. Oh no, for sure. The crazy part is we'd go work with golf courses. We would have an agreement with the golf courses. They would pay us in rounds of golf. Then we would take all of the rounds of golf from a specific metro area, package them up, put them in an envelope, and we would sell them on Craigslist at
So
like
like the golf,
half of their price.
like the cruise ships. Yeah, it's like cruise ships. Like they just barter in time trips on the cruise ship for everything else they need.
Exactly. Worked out for the golf courses, worked out for us. It worked really well on a small scale. When it comes to scaling that up, it got to be a little bit more of a challenge. And then ultimately, that business got hit with a sledgehammer in 2008 when the real estate market crashed. A lot of the golf courses we worked with were real estate owned. The golf course was owned by the developer of the whole neighborhood, and all of those guys went down the pipes. And 75% of our business was with one golf management company. Bad move, And we'll fast forward to the exit. The first question you get asked by a potential buyer is, what percentage of your revenue comes from your largest client? And the answer back then would have been like 75%. And lo and behold, that went away in one day and ended up in a lawsuit. So the doing the roundtable stuff was like this two-part thing. It was like, right, questions would get asked of me that nobody else would ask. And the flip side was there was a group of people where there was a place of understanding. And I could share stuff, and right, it's not like I was going to go home and share this with my family or my friends. They're not going to understand this stuff. But being in a group like this just was super valuable from a support perspective. So we did.
Walk us through the transition. How'd you end up with the trade show software?
Yeah. So 08, 09, that stuff crashes. The whole thing was built, the whole golf concept was built on building databases for golf courses and essentially building databases for ourselves. So we had built into that a touchscreen based data collection system. So we had a terminal in every golf course. It was a touchscreen like the restaurants used. And people would enter their own information on the touchscreen, and that would feed our database. That same concept became, a few years later, our company called iCapture. And iCapture was a tablet-based data collection system. It initially started in the back of our heads. We were like thinking, like, this is like just a replacement. What we wish we would have had back in the golf course days was this simple little iPad instead of a big ELO touchscreen and a big computer behind the desk and all this stuff. Like, the iPads made it super simple. I think it was just a couple months after the iPad 2 was released, we came out with our app, iCapture. About a month in, we got a front page listing with the email marketing company Constant Contact. And all of a sudden, they were sending traffic from their site. We were getting 1,000 free, like freemium type users per month from Constant Contact. So all of a sudden, we just started seeing all this traffic because Constant Contact had done some research, and they actually published it on their blog. The number one challenge their customers had was collecting emails face-to-face. Right? Offline. Sure, you can go put your email in online and that feeds it. That's super easy. But trying to do that offline was a challenge. Our app and the iPad solved that problem. So we started to get only about 20% of the people who signed up became paid subscribers, but it got us some traction.
That's great.
And yeah, so then like 3 years into that, I literally remember the day it happened. Somebody called and they're like, can your app scan this badge from this trade show? And to be completely honest, I had 2 other people working for me. Nobody knew what the heck they were talking about. So I literally just said, can you tell them to send us a picture of what they're talking about? They send us this picture, and like, I had never been to I'd been to like a home show, but people at home shows aren't running around with lanyards,
badges on,
and all this good stuff. We figured out what this was, and we're like, oh, geez. The iPhones were just getting powerful enough that they could do a real-time scan of a QR code, because that's what it ultimately took. And just that one phone call literally changed the entire trajectory of the company. We didn't know it at the time, but right, we essentially, over the next 5 years, pivoted completely. And we had made most of that pivot when COVID came along.
Right. Yeah. You guys were pivoting right into a brick wall. So-
Virtual is an understatement.
Right. And
Nice
so-
for all.
We had done, so 2020 comes along, January, February, and the first week of March, we had done over $1 million in sales. 2 weeks later, we were at zero. As you can imagine, trade shows, events, right, which is everything our app was designed to work with, goes away. No, but none of these happen. And so
I mean, up to that point, between the three of us, what would you say how many times had you thought about the chance of trade shows stopping or disappearing?
Zero.
Perry,
Absolutely
had
zero.
that thought ever even crossed your mind?
No.
Right. We've all lived at the three of us have all lived at trade shows. We've done so much business over our careers at trade shows. We don't necessarily think they're the greatest thing on earth, but they're the Lindy effect, right? They've been around for a long time.
Yeah.
They're going to be around for a long time.
Exactly.
There was 0.0% concern of, oh, Brady's got too much market risk. He's got too much single channel risk or whatever, because trade shows will always exist. Right.
Yep. And like the crazy part is like, we remember there was a trade show going on in Barcelona that was about 3 weeks before everything closed down here. And like, just out of the blue, this thing, which was the largest wireless communication industry trade show in the world, like the center of it was over there in Europe, and it got canceled last minute. And so we were like, what the heck?
That's like SEMA happening here, right? Or something like that.
Yeah. Like CES, right?
CES.
Like,
yeah.
Huge. And all of a sudden, I think it was like the last week of February, boom, they just don't even have it. And we were like, what's this? We should have, not that it mattered, right? We had 2 weeks and thing was going to hit the wall no matter what.
You couldn't pivot
there wasn't
fast enough. There was no understanding of what
it's a good thing we probably didn't know, because we just kept on selling right to the day that everything got shut down.
And so through that transition, I remember Perry and I were doing a lot of triage emergency conversations every day with clients. Yes. You were obviously at the top of that list because you were in AMN at the time.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, Brady, here's what it looks like to keep a business afloat and open without losing everything you've built to this point. Because in 2008, I had seen a couple businesses that had grown quite well into the tens of millions, and their owners decided to float the shortfall because, of course, it's going to bounce back. That's what everybody thought. Yeah. Not everybody. A lot of people thought in 2008, oh, this is temporary. We'll bounce back. It's just a blip. And so I knew of one guy that put in about $12 million out of pocket in operating capital to keep his staff on so he didn't have to lay everybody off.
Yeah.
And then he finally realized, man, that was foolish. I got to keep cutting back. And so we were given the gray hairs, we've got more experience and we've been through that bloodbath before. And so one of the things we talked to a lot of people about, you included, was how deep can you cut and how much can you cut to keep things lean and not bleed yourself dry.
Yeah. No.
What was that journey like for you as the owner in that moment, with people that you liked, that were loyal, that were good? You thought you had been running a lean organization up to that point. You didn't have crazy overhead and debt. You weren't like hiring 10,000 people ahead of what you needed, like so many tech companies had done these last few years. But what was the experience between your ears like in that moment when we're like, hey, you got to pull out the hatchet?
So, right before COVID happened, a couple of the AMN sessions had resulted in me flexing that muscle already.
Yeah, you did. You got rid of a few people that weren't optimized.
Yeah, of cutting a couple people that was not comfortable. They were really critical, in quotes, critical in my mind, because it was right in order to pull the plug on that person, it was going to create a bunch of uncomfortable stuff for me. Like it was going to cause me more work.
And I think there's a couple layers to that, right? It's going to cause you to do work that you probably once did, but don't like doing or don't want to do again. So you feel like you're going backwards. The discomfort of the confrontation of letting people go
100%.
that haven't committed fraud, haven't ripped off your clients, haven't done something that's deservedly caused them to be fired. I think that's the Achilles heel and the hardest thing for just about every small business owner I've ever worked with is letting go of nice people that aren't doing a good enough job.
Yep.
Right? That's so uncomfortable. Perry, on a scale of 1 to root canal, like where does it rank for you?
Let's call it firing a B+ player because you only want A and A+ people. It's really hard to say, like, you might have to get out a microscope to find enough flaws. And if you feel like you have to properly explain this, you may never do it. And most people I'm just going to keep paying this person $60,000 a year because I'd rather write checks for $60,000 than have that conversation.
Yep. Yeah. And so obviously COVID gave a lot of business owners the excuse to have to let go of those, I'd say B-, C+ players that a lot of companies have held on to. And so you had already started flexing that muscle. That's great. That's a good awareness. That was something new and uncomfortable. And I think the discomfort observation is really the key because so many things that we don't do as business owners are simply because it makes us feel uncomfortable. It makes us, makes us feel that we're going to hurt somebody. We're going to feel awkward. We're going to feel embarrassed. We're going to, all those negative emotions, right?
Yes. Yes. Including what the other team members are going to think of me for doing it.
Right. Because it's their friend. You're letting their friend go, somebody that they've built a relationship with, somebody that they may feel is doing way better than you think they're doing. And so all those judgments, right? And so now we've got conflict, we've got confrontation, we've stirred up the muck, and now we got to deal with all of it. And shame, Dan, that's a great point because I made the decision to hire them. That's another one, right? Of being pot committed. Nope, that's going to work out. I've hired them and I'm sticking with them because I don't want to be proven wrong. Perry and I did a webinar a few months ago, and one of the guys, when I was talking about just upgrading staff, he's like, nope, it's your commitment to turn everybody into an A player. And I'm like, well, if you want to do that lift, God bless you. That's great. But at the end of the day, I'm not in the diamond coal polishing business to make diamonds. I just want to find diamonds. I just want to work with diamonds. So no, that's good. So you started that, and you did a few layers of cuts.
So when COVID hit, we had 25 people.
Good data point, right? Thanks for that detail.
25 people in our local. We were all
local Boise
on site in Boise. Everybody was coming into the office. So the first slash, which it was probably 2 weeks. 2 weeks. First slash was like
by the beginning of April. Yeah.
There was all right, we dropped 8 people.
Wow. Isn't it crazy to think you had to do more because that first 8 probably felt like the most Herculean lift you'd ever done at that point?
Yes. And there's nothing like COVID threatening the whole thing to cause the inner conversation to be like this isn't about anybody. This is just about survival, for goodness.
It's the train switch philosophical question.
Yeah.
Are we going to kill this one person that's on the train, or are we going to switch it and let the whole train die?
Yep.
Like the person on the tracks, like that. Yep. These are real problems that come with leadership.
Yeah.
So we trimmed 8, and then we had this harebrained idea, we can develop a new product really quickly.
That was harebrained. I'll agree. I thought it was harebrained the whole time.
But it was also, so we went down this.
It was swinging. It was trying. You were trying.
Absolutely.
That's the reality.
Absolutely. And it was just for morale's sake.
Something to do.
We need to keep people busy doing something to get them through the process. because they were just as much in shock as we were. Like they all wondered instantly, right? Am I still going to have a job? So we spent about 4 months working on a new project.
It was virtual trade show, virtual event software that wasn't Zoom. So there was potential. It had the hallmarks of, if we never get together again, we still need to have some kind of function like a trade show.
Yep. So about 4 months in, right, we finally decided, okay, really it came to, we were getting to close to a point where we could release the product. We had a couple people that said, yeah, I'll buy it. And I just know, because I understand the product and the development side of this stuff. All right, if we have a new product out there, we got to support that whole thing. And how in the world are we going to support that whole thing and our old product when it comes back? So, right, when COVID hit, within a couple weeks, I had in my mind said, all right, this thing's going to live 18 months before trade shows start to creep back. Like it didn't take long to figure out this wasn't going to be a 3-month thing or
we weren't just flattening the curve.
No, that was not going to happen. So 4 months in, we cut back all the way to 8 people total. So basically another 9 people we let go.
And isn't that fascinating? That kind of reminds me of the Marines workout. They say that, let's say you're doing pull-ups or push-ups, either way, that when your body gives out in the Marines, they believe you're only 40% done, that you have another 60% of capacity left to do in push-ups or pull-ups. And they keep grinding until they get that other 60% done. And it's like, we think we've done the hard work laying off the 8 people, but then you did another cut of 9 people, right? Yeah. And it's not saying that you had to lay off all 17 at stage 1. That probably would have been beyond shocking. You probably would have bled out from the trauma of it. But it is so fascinating what is actually possible when push comes to shove, and you have to do the hardest thing in the name of keeping the company alive.
No, and right, they had the PPP programs and that kind of stuff, which essentially let us float those 9 people and cover that. But in that 4-month window, we burned close to $1 million in cash.
Yep. So you get to the backside, trade shows start coming back in 2021, mid to late 2021, right?
Yep.
And you don't.
So we had spent about 6 months refining our product for trade shows. So we cut off the development of the new product and we said, all right, how can we go update our old product to where when people come back into this thing, they're like, wow, okay, this is different. This is new. This is cool. And so we spent 6 months, we built a plan, rolled it out, and was the best thing we ever did, because when the people started coming back, logging in, they're like, whoa, what's this? And it was so much more intuitive, so much more user-friendly. And it really helped us to start creating a little momentum and at least not look like we had just sat around doing nothing.
And I think there was a very big bifurcation in the marketplace during COVID. There were a lot of companies that were sitting around licking their wounds, feeling bad for themselves. One funny little anecdotal story was a buddy of mine. He did some graphic design work for a Mexican restaurant up in Washington, in his neck of the woods. And so the owner started out saying, hey, we got 3 weeks down. I've been needing to remodel this restaurant. We got all these kitchen guys. They all can work. Let's remodel the whole restaurant. And so they did it on the cheap, painted it, carpet, type of new tile, whatever. And then when they couldn't open, then let's just do a to-go orders. We got the kitchen, we'll do pickup only. And he kept doing proactive things so that he was making things better during the downtime. He was getting the business that was there during the slowdown. And lo and behold, when things started opening back up, he's running like a train down the track ahead of everybody because he improved and he made things better. And I think there's a lot of companies that just hunkered down hoping to just write it out. But for you, making the product better was a brilliant move, and it paid off in spades that we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you start getting more feedback, flywheel starts picking back up, and you realize, oh, we're in growth mode again. Oh, I would like to see what my options are of selling this, and talk through like that calculus
Well,
that you
so
did.
here was right. And there's a little piece in here that complicated it. So when we hit COVID, because about half of our business was people renewing their subscriptions who had been with us in the past, and about half of the business was
New accounts. Yep.
All right. So when COVID hit, we had all of these people whose subscriptions, when there were no trade shows going on, hit the end of their subscription and come up for a renewal. So we created a very unique approach with these people. And we told them, we're like, all right, we're going to make this better than ever. If you renew with us during COVID, we'll let you renew for the same old price because our price has gone up like 50%. We'll let you renew at the same old price. And we will not start your subscription date until you have your first trade show.
Oh,
nice. Deal making 101.
So it let them feel like they got a win. They still had a budget, so it wasn't that big of a deal that they didn't have to go steal it from somewhere else. But that really created a pillow for us from a cash flow perspective. Now, that was good until trade shows started, right? Now, we literally, from when trade shows started, we had a fraction of the revenue. The only business we had was like new business.
New clients, right?
Okay. New business coming right back out of COVID wasn't awesome, right? These people, a lot of these companies had fired their event teams. So they didn't know what the heck they were doing. And the people who were running the thing didn't know what they were doing. So we had this gap of a year before the renewals started kicking in on those old clients because, they had paid us through COVID. It didn't start until middle of 21. So until we got close to the end of 22, we were hamstrung from a cash perspective. We really didn't have any money to hire more people. We were just covering the 8 people we had. I think we brought one person back in that year's window. We're like, okay, we need at least one more person here. But it was just running super, super thin. And so it wasn't until the end of 22, the beginning of 23, that we really were able to be like, all right, back in growth mode.
Got it. So you had a solid 2.5 years of lean times. Very survival.
Yes. At least we knew that there was new business happening. Things were growing. Our account base was growing, but it took that long for the cash flow to catch up to where we could act like it.
Yep.
And so that was the great part was we knew where that cliff
was headed,
went, and it was straight up from there because every month after that, we were at least 40-50% increased revenue automatically just from the renewals because we knew those people really liked our new product that we delivered.
And what was your sales process like after the change and after the becoming more lean?
So we had totally changed our sales process into an interactive storytelling mode where once we upgraded our product, we actually went in and built an entire sales layer on top of our product to be able to walk people through in a demo and really give them a bird's eye view of how everything worked.
And so were they able to go through that on their own, or was that a salesperson guided?
It was still sales directed. They would do a Zoom call and we'd walk them through a demo. But we gave them a lot more from a reporting perspective, visibility into things,
And how did your client mix change? Did you move up market after COVID? Was it the same clients? Had you already gone up market pre-COVID?
We had just started going up market. So we had some traction right into the Fortune 500, but not a ton. When once trade shows were back in full force, then I don't know, it never was like, oh, everybody who looked at it bought it. We still only had a close rate of 30%. But the reputation had done pretty well. We had really spent a lot of time focusing on getting reviews online. And so we had 60 reviews and our competitor had 8. So it's like
Planet Perry principles right there.
Yeah, that was
network effect for mere mortals in effect.
Yes, that was straight out of, what's the roofing guy's name?
Mark McShirley.
Mark McShirley.
Yep.
Yep. He and I had multiple conversations. We made that a core part. That would have never happened had I not been there. Had I not been in the room with Mark and listened to his story, like we would have never put the focus that we did on that. And in the end, like not only did it help customers, but it really helped our internal team with a level of confidence. And if you put those two things together, because that's the one thing it took me a long time to realize. As a CEO, I'm really serving 2 groups. I'm serving our customers and our team. And a lot of times things are in conflict between the two. We need to build new stuff, and so our team's got to do the work in order for our customers to later get the benefit. But doing the reviews and getting that right public visibility to people believing in us absolutely jacked both our potential customers and our internal team to really have a higher level of belief in the product that we were selling and delivering.
It's awesome. So you realize growth is happening. You've got a window here because of growth and revenue. And you decided middle end of 2023, hey, you know what? I'm going to look into what I might get for this thing, right?
Yeah. Okay. This was an interest, right? During COVID, Perry, I don't remember if it was you or Josh, but one of you guys hooked me up with a guy out of, I think he was Dubai or something. And he was the risk guy.
Probably Perry.
It was a total random thing. And anyhow, I got on a call with him. I think he was in, Dubai, if I remember correctly. But he was asking questions. He was like trying to write a book or something. And he asked me, he's like, all right, so what's your number? And I'm sitting there in the car. I remember I was sitting out in front of Starbucks, just sitting in my car having this conversation. And at the time, I'm like, it's COVID. Like, this thing isn't even worth $1 million. Like, it's not even worth anything right now. Who would buy this thing? There's zero proof anything would come back. But in the back of my mind, it was like, okay, if this thing was back to full steam, what would my number be? I tell him, he asked me what a number is. I guess I got to give him an answer. So I give him an answer. And we talked a lot through the concepts of risk because it was so front and center at that point during COVID. And right, how could we mitigate risk? When we looked at doing stuff to our product or anything, like how do you assess risk? And it was just so valuable. So that really stuck in my mind when we go into 2023. And I had been to a conference with a bunch of software CEOs, and somebody made this presentation. And they said, basically, it's like a curve. And if you get past
if growth starts plateauing, right?
And it starts to flatten, okay? Essentially, the value of your company is a function of the revenue and the growth rate.
Yep.
And so if the growth rate starts to decrease, the revenue starts to flatten.
Your company's worth less of a multiple. And so in the
Yes.
classic world of investing, they've talked a lot about the rule of 40, which
Yep.
I think gets people in the right direction of thinking, that says it's your growth rate plus your profit margin has to be 40 or better. I think personally for small businesses under 10 million, really, that the rule of 40 doesn't apply, because most small businesses should be running at a net profit of 15 to 30% all day long. And so if you've got a net profit of, let's say, 20%, and your growth rate is only 20%, that means you did 4 million this year, you're going to do 4.4 million next year, or no, 4.8 million next year. You're going to do 5.7 million, something like that, the following year. Like, that is decent, but that's not maximal value. And so this is where Brady talking about that growth arc, right? And the growth arc means down here you're doing like 80% year over year growth, and up here you're doing 10% year over year growth until you plateau. And
Right.
as you go up this arc, the multiples get lower and lower for your small business.
Yes. Everybody's dream is the arc just keeps going.
A hockey stick. They want it to just keep, they want it to
called-
accelerate the other way.
It's called the unicorn.
Yeah.
And that's a Slack.
Yeah. Slack, Dropbox, Zoom,
Yep.
those kind of things, right?
Yes.
Where just meteoric growth hits and their
Yes,
value
for
goes
an
to the
extended
moon.
period of time.
Yep.
So I'd been to this conference, this guy drew this thing. He was an investment banker. He drew this thing. He's here. This is just how it works.
I'm actually going to pull up the whiteboard while you're talking, because I think it's interesting to think about this curve and the point on the curve at where you think like getting maximal value. So this is growth rate, right? So what rate of growth you're hitting. And as this curve goes and becomes more flatlined, is it like trying to time, like, okay, we're right here, let's try to maximize the exit?
Yeah. I would say the radius of your arc there is a little tighter than what you've drawn it. That was how he drew it. It's like there's a pretty quick inflection point from where you go from good growth to not very good growth.
Got it.
Because in our world, in the software world, customer retention essentially drives a huge chunk of that plateau.
So more like this.
Yep.
Got it. And so if you get
it's
over
pretty
this,
obvious where you want to time it now, right?
before the tipping point, truly, like that's where the graph tips over to flat, right?
Yes. And let's be honest, like the curve, I watched the guy explain this. I'm drawing my own curve in my own head.
Yep.
It's only in my own head. Sure, I've got numbers to back it up. I know where we're at. But I had been to this conference. We sat down for our leadership team's quarterly offsite, and we were going through things. And basically we looked at where we were, and we're like, and I mean, I had told our sales leader, I'm like, all right, I'll give you 800,000 for a budget to increase growth. Go get new clients.
Because you want to stay on this part of the line where new clients are more valuable than anything else because of the future multiple. And so what this bar on the bottom is saying, that this is, let's say that this is a 10x multiple down here, and this is a 3x multiple over here. And the flatter your growth. And then, so this is probably backwards. It's probably like 100% growth here, and then 0% growth here.
Yep, exactly. It really became this, as we had our quarterly meeting and we were talking about things. And over the next couple days, I was just chewing it. I'm like, we have absolutely no idea how to spend $10,000 and generate $10,000 in new business. No idea. We had no idea how to spend $100,000 and get 100,000 in new business. Now, we had tapped out channels. Most of our stuff was inbound and Google Ads, but we just did not have that visibility that was like, we can continue this growth rate. Because
forever, right? We've
had
unlocked some magical thing, right? This is
Yep.
short-lived, most likely. What's the line? Make hay while the sun shines.
Yep. And here's what I've talked to a whole lot of people who have sold their companies since I sold my company. Go figure, right?
You're in the club.
Just,
You got a membership card.
I joke, you've either sold a company or you haven't. It's just two completely different groups. But the people that I've talked to, and there's a whole bunch of different ways you can exit. You can exit just selling 20% of your company. You can sell 50%. Right. You can sell the whole thing. We ended up selling the whole thing. The biggest part of that, though, was what I realized after the fact. And my wife was like really pushing me, like, we got to do something. We had and I'm talking all of our eggs in this basket.
Right.
Okay? The only thing that wasn't in the basket was our house.
Right.
We had no stock. We had no other investments, no real estate, no nothing, zero. So we were completely illiquid, external from if we want to borrow money from the company. And you don't typically borrow a whole bunch of money from a growing company like this. So the options that existed were pretty small. It was like, all right, we're not going to go raise money here. So let's go sell 20% of this thing. I'm still going to be attached to it. It's not going to make that big of a difference to our life. Why would you do something like that?
And I think the wisdom that comes from you seeing, hey, we're in a acute situation of growth is happening, and really COVID, there was a rebound effect. If your business was destroyed during COVID, then there's pent up demand that's going to come on the backside of that.
Yes.
Just like if your business expanded during COVID, you're going to have a trough on the backside where all the demand got pulled forward, and now you're feeling the pain of that demand has to rebuild over time naturally. And so I've seen so many times where entrepreneurs think they've got the Midas touch, they've got the world by the tail, they can do no wrong. Oh, we got offered 12 million or 10 million, and we're going to pass it up because we're going to get 30 million next year. And that never comes. I've had others where they were in meteoric growth and they were like, we've had multiple suitors offering us from 10 to 20 million. We're going to hold out. I had one of the investors I knew in that company. I bumped into him at a Starbucks. I said, hey, how's it going? He's like, oh, we got offered 40 million. We're turning it down. We're going to hold out to 100 million. Guess what? Never happened. And the business declined, and they sold a few years later for 3 million. So you had the foresight to say, hey, we're in a good spot. We're in a tight pocket. Let's capitalize on it.
Yeah, because what it really came back to for me was when we had our offsite and then we had subsequent follow-up meetings, like there were 3 or 4 of us in the company that really just love the growth aspect.
It's fun.
And when we looked at where we were going, it was really going to be get all the systems going, then it's just going to go. Like it's not going to be nearly as fun.
Yeah.
And now this could be true or it could not be true. You can't split test this stuff. But in my mind,
in the alternate universe going on somewhere, it's being split test now.
In my mind, was like, okay, these guys are on board because of the culture, because of the growth. And if I can't maintain that, the probability is I lose them. And if I lose them, my job becomes very miserable.
Way harder. Yeah.
Way harder because I don't have the upside to attract. We already knew that the number of people that we needed to hire was scaling back. So these people that once upon a time, hey, there's going to be this opportunity for you.
It's more maintenance. It just turns into maintenance. Yeah,
it does.
So you run a process, you go meet with an investment banker in September-ish of 23.
So we did,
you had a rather rapid exit, all things considered. That walk us through how fast that went, how many real deals there were on the table, and how you worked through which ones to pick.
Yeah, we engaged the investment banker about the 1st of August. About the second week of September, we've got everything put together, and they started
package to run the process.
They
Yeah.
had essentially started.
By the way, people listening, I don't know why selling a business gets to own this term, but they call it running a process. It's like inside baseball. So all the investment bankers, the process is package the business up, spit polish it, make a presentation, talk about all the upside, talk about all the things that are potential there, and then go to market to try to find a number of buyers that will compete with each other to bid it up, because that's the best negotiating tool as a seller, is to have multiple offers.
Yeah. So it goes out there, right? We start fielding a bunch of phone calls. They want to have a conversation with us. I did a bunch of calls with potential buyers. There was different kinds of potential buyers.
Yeah, you've got the strategic ones that this product adds super valuable features to our product set, or brings customers that are in line with what we want. Or there's just financial buyers where they're like, hey, these guys are growing, we can put money in and get a rate of return on our money. There's all types of scenarios that you might find yourself in.
There was people that were single operators that wanted to come in and
own a job.
Yeah. Oh, I'm awesome at this. I'll come in and I'll grow the company. So in the end, at some point, you just get lucky. Okay.
It takes one. You just need one.
We had essentially decimated one of our competitors' competing product. In the end, they came to us and said, hey, is there any way we can do a partnership? We got all these people, but we're shutting down our product. Can we send them over to you? And we had NDAs signed with these guys putting a partnership together, and their corresponding M&A guys who were doing acquisitions, they had an NDA, and we're having these phone calls, and they're like salivating over our product because our product kicked their product's rear end. And in the end, like we had, I believe, 7 LOIs on the table.
Letters of intent.
Yep. Range in all kinds of different numbers, but these guys ended up, they like said, hey, can you pause for a week? We need to have some conversations. They came back to us and essentially kind of said, we want to do this. We think this would be a good match. And so the guys who were coming to us for the partnership, they all got together, they all talked. And in the end, I believe it was, let's see, if I do this correctly, we got an LOI from them on November 2nd. And I essentially spent the better part of 4 weeks doing due diligence with them. First week of December, we essentially signed all the paperwork to close the deal, and it funded the beginning of January.
That's awesome. And how much navel gazing have you done since selling your business and having nothing to do but play golf and drive a fast car around?
We did this webinar last year, and I did it from the front seat of my Lamborghini. Yeah, it's crazy. Like this whole ride is an emotional roller coaster, right?
Yep.
They talk about it being an exit. Some exits have a short off ramp, some have longer off ramps. This was pretty short. Like I only stuck around for 90 days, and that was like 10 hours a week for 90 days, just handing them financial stuff off.
Yeah.
I don't know how they didn't figure out how deep I was embedded, but that's their problem, not mine.
Nope, not your monkeys, not your circus.
But the good part is I had a bunch of great people. They've all in all treated them really well.
That's great.
Many of them have jumped up in roles.
Awesome.
Because we were just lean and mean, and we had our shit together, and we had awesome people.
Yeah.
And so for them, it's worked out well. as you can imagine, for me, it's life-changing in a lot of
Yep.
ways. Most of my human interaction was through work. And so there is a lot of unknowns when you all of a sudden have the entire day and you're like, what do I do with myself? Just the emotional aspect, the
Right. Unpacking all of
patterns.
it, having the space to deal with it.
Yeah, the patterns that essentially just got ripped apart because I no longer
Have to
right
show up.
to the office. And
I'm going to
yeah,
cut you off because we got 3 minutes left, and this has been fantastic. I would love to know if anybody has a question in the chat. Jay, I think we have a recording. We send out a replay for over the next week to the people that registered. So if you have a question, would love to hear it. I also want to let you know, obviously, this is to talk about AMN. Brady was part of AMN and Roundtable, Perry's highest level involvement programs to get access to other entrepreneurs at your level, get access to Perry and me and AMN. And if you're looking at your business and saying, gosh, Brady went through quite the roller coaster, and having Perry and Josh and Robert, who's also our AMN leader, to guide him through the crazy chaos, and he ends up on the backside selling it for a pile of money. Obviously, not all of the money is because of us. Brady did a ton of work and pulled the trigger at the right time on selling. But if that's of interest, reach out to me, Josh at perrymarshall.com, and I would love to have a conversation with you. We're kicking off our 8th year in a row now of AMN next month. We start after Labor Day. It's a great program. We meet every other week on a Tuesday for an hour on Zoom to go over content. We meet in person September 15th to the 17th in Naperville. And then next May, I think it's the 13th to the 15th, I'm not sure, for in person. And it is going to make you do uncomfortable things. And it is going to make you a better entrepreneur. And it is going to make your business better. Whether you want to grow it to sell it, or like a number of our members, turn it into a cash cow that runs better without you, more profitably, more stably, with more peace of mind. Those are both the goals that we help entrepreneurs get to in AMN. So love to have that conversation. I'm going to throw my email in the chat. Perry, anything else to add?
I am just super proud of Brady. And the proudest part is when COVID hit, I was running AMN, I was running Roundtable, I had several Roundtable groups, and then I had other members. And the AMN members were the fastest to react and make cuts and do really uncomfortable things. And Brady did really hard decisions and really gut-wrenching changes that were absolutely necessary, but some people just wouldn't have the guts to do. And I vividly remember how I'd wake up in the morning. I'm like, I'm in the middle of a pandemic. I've never done this before. I'd pray for wisdom, and we would get together and we would solve the problems. It would just happen. And we worked through it. We navigated the maze. And I'm super proud that when COVID bounced back, when COVID was ending and the trade show bounced back, and then capital was in a place where people are buying stuff, Brady was at the right place at the right time. And he got there by being the wrong guy at the wrong place at the wrong time and still making it through. And so Brady, like I'm very proud of you. And this is what we do. We help people navigate these things. Nobody knows. We're in a crazy time right now. Nobody knows what's happening next month or
Is it
next
up? Is it
year.
down? Is it sideways? Yeah.
Nobody knows. And
It's impossible to tell.
I would not be caught dead, not in a mastermind group. And you need to not only be in a mastermind group, you need to not be the smartest person in the room. You need to walk in the room.
That's the big thing. That is the big thing, Perry. You do not want to be the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to be the one giving out all the advice to everybody all the time.
Yeah. No. So reach out to Josh Long at perrymarshall.com. We have a new cohort starting in just a few weeks. Brady, this is great. Thank you for spending some of your day with us and telling your story.
Sorry we interrupted your golf.
Hey, I'm out the door right now. My wife and my daughter are ready to go.
Awesome.
All right,
It's great
guys.
seeing you,
Thanks so
bud.
much.
Thanks again.
Uh-huh.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.